So welcome to Nasami Farm. We are part of Native Plant Trust. We are the nursery arm. We do research and growing, propagation of native plants here. We're located in Whately, Massachusetts. I'm Alexis Docius, the propagator and facilities coordinator here, and I'm going to give you a little tour of what we do. We often get asked what is considered a native plant. So if we're here to New England, it is not based on political boundaries of the states, but more on the ecoregion. So depending on the similar plant communities found throughout the region. So this is a nice map showing you the different ecoregions that exist in New England. So if a plant is found, say, in the Atlantic coastal pine barrens in New Jersey, but we haven't seen it on the Cape in a long time, we will still consider growing it because it would normally be found in that kind of habitat. And we often consider native plants being plants that were here and established when colonization happened by the Europeans. So here at Nasami, we have a retail area. So this is our retail pad, and the shop is open for retail sales to the general public and on the weekends. And we also have offices and a common room that we use for classroom. We have a seed bank where we store seed that we're going to use later on. And we process the seed in the classroom. We also teach some classes. And a lot of the plant material here in retail is grown from seed that we have wild collected and grown up in the nursery, and we'll be going through that in the greenhouses. And then shared with some partner nurseries that grow it up to finished size because they have more capacity to do that, and then we get them back. And so our seed source material is labeled on the label, so you can see if you're especially for restoration projects, if you want to have a known ecotype. But it's just good because those plants will do much better if they're from genes from the same area where you're planting them. So as I was saying, we grow all of our material from seed. That is our goal to have. And we get that seed from wild populations, and these are all common species that we use. So we have to identify. This is Allium cernuum. And we collect the seed when it's ripe, and it's mostly by staff. We have a few dedicated volunteers who are trained, and there's a protocol that you follow when you're collecting wild seed because you don't want to deplete the natural populations. Identifying a wild population, we often will do by the plant community. So if we know that species lives on ridge lines, then we can scout certain areas based on geographical data. Also just word of mouth and doing lots of hikes, and we have people out there scouting for us saying, oh, I saw this. A lot of it is private land. It's much easier to get landowner permission. There are I know the trustees of reservation are partners with us and allow us to collect seed on their properties. So we go through a permit collection process with them, and oftentimes we have to give them a report of what we've taken, and we keep detailed records of the size of the population, when things are collected, how much is collected, and kind of the quality of the seed as well for each year, because it could be impacted. Like this year we're seeing a lot of damaged seed or low seed viability from the drought that we've been experiencing. This is our seed storage room, and it's temperature and humidity controlled. So once the seed is brought in and cleaned and processed, we store it in the seed dry room. Not all seed is tolerant of dry storage, but most of it is. And this is a little example. We also house some rare seed for our conservation department. But this is like our back inventory through the years, alphabetically, of all of the seed we have, and then we will pick from there each year for our propagation schedule. All right, so this is our greenhouse one, we call it, the first one. We use it for propagation of all of this year's seedlings. So we'll walk in and I'll show you what we have. material, we often hang on to them for several years. They take a while to grow from seed, as you might imagine. So if we propagated them into plugs, I'd like to put them into these root makers. These really help with air pruning the roots. A lot of times with woody material, the roots start circling the pots, and that is no good for the health of the plant. This is Betula lenta. I think this is a black birch. That's a nice one. You can see the roots there. And so they prune when they reach the air, and they create this nice matrix as opposed to hitting the bottom and circling. So these are the seed flats. This is actually all of our ericaceous seed. Again, they're really slow growing, so we often hang on to them for 2 years before we propagate them out of the seed flats. But we sow right into these seed flats, and as they germinate, we prick them out and put them into plug trays. Because they're ericaceous, we often add a milled sphagnum moss into the top layer to give that little bit of extra acid to these species. Our Sarracenia, or purpurea, or pitcher plant, and we've sown into these large flats. They like a really moist environment, so we find that if we use a larger flat, it stays moister. And as they germinate, we will pop them out into plug trays very carefully. And this is how they're growing up now. And next year, we will pot, these ones we keep in-house, and we'll pot them into 3-inch pots to sell in retail. We use rainwater only because our well water is a little too soft, and again, they want that slightly more acidic water. So we found with a lot of our grasses, it is much easier to sow them directly into these tiny plug trays, and then I'll show you. We create little tiny plugs that can then be much quicker and easier to pop into bigger plugs, instead of trying to parse out just a few pieces of your seed flat. So this is Carex pennsylvanica. It's sought after in the trade. It behaves very much like a turf grass. So for people that are trying to get away from turf grasses or have hard to mow areas, it's a really nice native plant to install and create a native lawn. We're actually growing hundreds of them for the Smith Library project, so you should be able to see them in the coming year being installed there.
Here at Nasami Farm, we like to incorporate ecological principles to the greenhouse in our nursery production of native plants. In a few ways we do that. We use an all-organic fertilizer. We use a Dosatron through our irrigation system to apply the fertilizer.
Hi everyone, I'm Adam. I'm the intern here at Nasami Farm. This is our Dosatron. Part of our IPM here is to put nematodes, soil nematodes, into the soil mix to help keep down the fungus gnats and things like that. So we get nematodes in kind of a bran mix or something like that, and then we use Neptune's hydrolyzed fish fertilizer. It's like a real low dose. So we put some fertilizer into this bucket, and then the Dosatron, you can kind of come and spin this dial, and it changes the dose. So you can kind of see the different numbers. It's like parts per million, and it automatically blends the water and the fertilizer, so you're getting exactly what you want into it.
And we also have a robust integrated pest management plan. And this allows us to not use any herbicides or pesticides in our production. And our IPM is based on culture, sanitation, and augmentation and conservation of beneficial insects. We also sometimes bring in beneficial insects. We have a regular schedule for both preventative maintenance, and there are several companies out there that rear and provide this material. And we use one called BioBest, and you may see the sachets around the greenhouse. The sachets are the most obvious. They hold predatory mites in a little sachet of bran, and they can climb out of the sachets through a hole when they are done breeding and in search of prey, and they will move around looking for thrips and other pest mites and larvae.